No one heard screaming that night. No doors were broken. No windows shattered. No alarms were raised. Yet by morning, the village was missing its children. Beds were empty. Blankets lay untouched. Toys rested exactly where they had been left the night before. It was as if the children had simply vanished between one breath and the next. The elders whispered his name before the sun fully rose. Dracula. They said he had learned something new, something far more terrifying than force. He no longer needed claws or violence, or fear loud enough to wake a village. That night, he took the children without a sound. And what terrified the parents most was not how quietly it happened, but the growing suspicion that some of the children had not been taken at all. They had followed him. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss our darkest, cinematic horror stories inspired by Dracula and the legends that refuse to stay buried. That fire. The silence was the first thing the mothers noticed. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that feels earned after a long day, but a hollow silence, stretched too thin, as if the night itself were holding its breath. In the village of Rastoica, silence had always meant safety. Wolves howled, owls cried, wind rattled shutters. Sound was proof the world was still turning. That night, there was nothing. Marta woke before dawn, her body pulled from sleep by instinct rather than noise. She lay still listening. Her husband's breathing was steady beside her. The house felt unchanged. Too unchanged. She turned her head toward the corner where her son's bed stood. It was empty. For a moment, her mind refused to accept what her eyes saw. She sat up slowly, heart beginning to pound, convincing herself he must have climbed into their bed during the night. She whispered his name once, then again louder. No answer. She rose, crossing the room in 3 steps, touching the mattress. Cold. The blanket lay folded back neatly, as if small hands had placed it there with care. His shoes were still by the door. His coat still hung from the peg. Marta screamed. Across the village, doors flew open almost simultaneously. Cries echoed into the gray morning as parents rushed into streets barefoot and frantic, clutching lanterns that trembled in their hands. Every house told the same story. No signs of struggle. No broken locks. No blood. Just empty beds. By the time the church bell rang, the sun had barely begun to rise. Father Ionescu stood at the steps, pale and shaking, watching the crowd gather. He did not ask what had happened. He already knew. "They were here," said an old man near the well, pointing upward with a trembling finger. "I felt it. I woke in the night and felt eyes on the house." "Did you hear anything?" someone asked desperately. "No," another woman whispered. "That's the worst part. I would have woken. I would have heard my daughter cry." But there had been no cries. Only sleep. Only silence. Father Ionescu raised his hands for calm, though his own heart thundered in his chest. "How many?" he asked. The answer came slowly, each number another wound. 7. 7 children gone. The villagers searched anyway, through houses, barns, fields, the forest edge. They followed footprints that led nowhere, paths that ended too cleanly, as if the earth itself had chosen not to remember. Near the old schoolhouse, someone found something that did not belong. A small wooden toy horse lay on the ground, unbroken, placed upright as if displayed. It belonged to Luca, the baker's son. His mother collapsed when she saw it, clutching it to her chest and sobbing. "He never went anywhere without it," she cried. "Never." From the church tower, Father Ionescu looked out over the rooftops. That was when he saw the marks. Not footprints. Indentations. Along the ridge of the schoolhouse roof, the tiles were slightly shifted, pressed down in a way no animal could have managed. A place where something heavy had stood. Watched. Waited. The old stories rushed back with brutal clarity. Not the tales told of frightened children, but the ones whispered between adults, late at night, when wine loosened tongues and memories sharpened fear. Dracula did not always come with screams. Sometimes he came with patience. As the villagers argued and prayed and broke down, none of them noticed a forest beyond the fields. How the shadows there seemed deeper than they should be. how the mist curled inward instead of drifting away. Within those shadows, movement stirred. The children walked a line, bare feet untouched by thorns or cold. Their eyes were open but unfocused, as if fixed on something only they could see ahead of them. None cried, none spoke. They followed the tall figure moving effortlessly between the trees. Dracula did not look back. He did not need to. They were already listening. By mid-morning, the village elders gathered inside the church. Father Ionescu stood before them, voice low and grave. This was not a raid, he said. It was an invitation. An invitation? One man repeated, horrified. Yes, the priest replied. One we failed to see. Outside, the bell rang again, slow, mournful, 7 times. And as the sound echoed across the valley, one terrible truth settled over Rastoica. The night had taken the children without a sound, and the silence meant it was not finished. By the second night, the village understood something worse than loss. The children had not been taken by force. They had not fought. They had not even woken their parents. That truth settled over Rastoica like a sickness, spreading quietly, infecting every thought. Mothers replayed the night again and again, searching for the moment they should have heard something. A creak, a whisper, a cry. Fathers checked locks obsessively, even though none had been broken. The silence itself had become the enemy. They must have been asleep. One woman sobbed inside the church. He must have kept them asleep. Father Ionescu said nothing. He was reading. The old book lay open on the altar, its pages brittle, its ink faded. It was not scripture. It was odor, copied and recopied by hands that believed memory was a form of protection. He traced a passage with his finger, his lips tightening. He comes first as a presence, then as a thought, and only last as a form. That afternoon, the village searched again. This time, they searched themselves. Parents questioned their remaining children relentlessly. Had they heard anything? Had they dreamed? Had they felt cold or seen shadows, or heard a voice calling softly in the dark? Most shook their heads, frightened and confused. But not all. Anna, only 6 years old, sat at the table swinging her legs, staring at the wall. When her mother asked if she had slept well, Anna nodded. "Did you dream?" her mother pressed. Anna hesitated. "Yes," she said. "What did you dream about?" Anna turned her head slowly. "The tall man," she replied. Her mother froze. "What tall man?" "The one who waits," Anna said calmly. "He stood by my bed. He didn't touch me. He just watched." Her mother grabbed her shoulders. "What did he say?" Anna frowned, thinking, nothing. He didn't need to. That night, no child in Rastoica slept alone. Beds were dragged together. Families slept in common rooms. Lamps were kept burning despite the risk of fire. Knives and crosses lay side by side on tables. Faith and fear equally desperate. And still Dracula came. Not into houses. Into minds. Mihai woke suddenly, his heart racing. He hadn't heard anything, but he knew someone was in the room. The air felt different. Thicker, heavier, as if it pressed down on his chest. He lay frozen, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. Then he felt it. A thought that was not his own. If you were chosen, you would know. Tears slid silently into his hair. Across the village, Anna sat upright in bed, her eyes open and clear. She felt no fear, only a gentle pull, like a hand resting lightly between her shoulder blades, guiding her attention outward, toward the window, toward the forest, toward something vast and patient. She did not rise. Not yet. From a roof of the old schoolhouse, Dracula observed the village once more. He was pleased. The first night had been about removal. The second was about awareness. Fear ripened differently when people understood they had been watched long before they were touched. Below him, adults paced. Children pretended to sleep. Faith cracked under the weight of helplessness. And still, not a single scream. Near midnight, Father Ionescu climbed the tower again. He carried the book with him this time, clutching it like a shield. He scanned the rooftops, the streets, the forest edge. "Show yourself," he whispered, unsure whether he was praying or challenging. Dracula did not appear. Instead, the priest felt something far worse. Understanding. The book slipped from his hands, pages fluttering open to a passage he had hoped never to read aloud. He does not take all. He takes enough. The rest are left to listen. The priest sank to his knees. In the forest, the 7 children stood in a clearing lit by moonlight. They were unharmed, calm. Their eyes reflected the pale glow as they watched Dracula move among them. Not touching, not feeding, merely observing. "You will remember this night," he said softly, "whether you return or not." One child stepped forward. "Will they hear us?" she asked. Dracula smiled, slow and terrible. "No," he replied. "That is the lesson." Back in the village, the wind stirred at last. Shutters rattled. A dog barked once before falling silent. And every parent felt it at the same time, the certainty that this night, like the last, would pass without sound. But the listening had only begun. By the 3rd day, the village moved as if underwater. Every sound felt distant. Every motion required effort. People spoke in whispers even under the sun, as though volume itself might attract attention. The absence of 7 children had reshaped Rastoica more completely than any fire or flood ever had. Fear had become careful. The elders ordered watches at night. Men took turns pacing the streets with lanterns, eyes lifting again and again to the rooftops. Women marked doors with chalk symbols pulled from half-remembered prayers. Father Ionescu blessed every house, though his voice wavered and his hands shook. None of it helped, because Dracula did not return to be seen. He returned to be felt. That afternoon, Anna sat on the church steps, tracing lines in the dust with a stick. Her mother watched her closely, never more than an arm's length away. Anna had not cried since the night the children vanished. She ate when told. She slept when held. But something in her gaze had shifted, focused inward, as if listening to a sound too soft for anyone else to hear. "Who is the tall man?" her mother asked gently, unable to keep the question buried any longer. Anna didn't look up. "He's old," she said. "Older than the stories." "What does he want?" Anna paused, then shrugged. "He wants us to hear him." That night, the watchers saw nothing. No shadow crossed the rooftops. No figure stood in the streets. The forest remained still. Relief crept in cautiously, shamefully. Perhaps the worst had passed. Inside their homes, children lay awake. Mihai stared at the ceiling, counting his breaths. His parents slept on either side of him, their hands linked across his chest like a barrier. He tried to focus on the warmth of them, the smell of familiar blankets. Then the warmth faded. Not cold, absence. The thought returned, clearer this time. "You are listening now." Mihai squeezed his eyes shut. "Go away," he whispered. The thought did not leave. It deepened. "I am already here." Across the village, Anna opened her eyes and smiled. She sat up slowly, careful not to wake her mother. The pull she felt was stronger tonight, not urgent, not commanding. Patient, certain, like gravity. She padded to the window and rested her forehead against the glass. Beyond the houses, beyond the fields, the forest waited. From within its edge, Dracula watched. He did not need to move closer. The distance itself was a test. Children who truly heard him did not require proximity. They recognized the invitation, without words. He sensed them now, the ones who stirred in their beds, the ones whose fear tangled with curiosity. Not all would answer. Most would grow away from the sound, bury it beneath years of forgetting. But some leaned toward it. At the church, Father Ionescu woke suddenly, gasping. The book lay open beside him, its pages turning though there was no wind. A line seemed to darken as he read it, as if freshly written. The 3rd night belongs to the listening. He rang the bell, not loud, not an alarm. Once, a warning meant for those who understood. Outside, no one came. Inside their homes, several children sat upright at the same moment. Anna stepped away from the window, heart calm. She dressed herself carefully, as if preparing for school. Mihai swung his legs over bed, trembling, tears streaming silently down his face. He did not want to go, but the listening had become too loud to ignore. Doors did not open. Feet did not cross thresholds. Not yet. Dracula observed the hesitation with interest. This was a fragile moment, the place where fear could still win. He did not rush it. He never did. He lifted his gaze to the village roofs, memorizing angles, distances, the rhythm of human light and dark. Patience had always been his greatest gift. Near dawn, Anna returned to bed. Mihai curled between his parents, exhausted. The pull receded. Not gone, merely resting. Morning came with birdsong that felt almost obscene. No new children were missing. The village celebrated too soon. They hugged their sons and daughters, cried with relief, thanked God aloud. Father Ionescu watched them with a heaviness that prayer could not lift, because he knew what the book meant. Dracula had not failed. He had advanced. That night, the children who listened would listen again, and eventually, one of them would answer, without ever leaving a sound behind. The fourth night did not arrive with darkness. It arrived with expectation. By sunset, Rastoka felt watched in a way it hadn't before. Not from rooftops, not from forest edges, but from inside its own walls. Parents sensed it as they barred doors and drew curtains. The children felt it more clearly, like a tightening thread pulling gently at their thoughts. No one said Dracula's name aloud anymore. They didn't need to. The watches were doubled. Lanterns burned along the main road. Men stood shoulder to shoulder, trying to convince themselves that numbers still mattered. Father Ionescu walked from house to house, murmuring blessings, touching foreheads slick with fear. When he reached Anna's home, he lingered. The girl sat at the table, drawing with charcoal on a scrap of paper. Circles within circles, lines that led nowhere. "Did you sleep?" the priest asked. Anna nodded. "Yes." "Did you hear anything?" She considered this. "Not with my ears." Her mother stiffened. Father Ionescu swallowed. "What did you hear, Anna?" "That the quiet is closer now," she said. The priest left without finishing the blessing. Night fell. Nothing happened. Hours passed. Lanterns sputtered. The men shifted their weight, embarrassed by their own nerves. Somewhere, a baby cried and was hushed. Somewhere else, a door creaked and hearts leapt for nothing. And then the quiet changed. Not louder, sharper. Mihai felt it first. He was lying between his parents again, staring at the faint glow of the lamp. The silence pressed inward, filling the space behind his eyes. He felt the thought arrive fully formed, patient, and complete. You don't need to walk. His breath caught. You don't need to open anything. A presence seemed to settle at the edge of the room, not visible, not audible. Just there, Mihai's parents slept on, unaware. Listen, the thought urged. Across the village, Anna sat up in bed at the same moment. She smiled faintly, as if greeting an old friend. She didn't rise. She didn't reach for the window. She simply listened. From the roof of the old schoolhouse, empty again, nothing moved. Dracula had shifted his place. He stood in the space between houses, where lamplight thinned and shadows overlapped. He did not cast a reflection. He did not disturb the air. He had learned the village's rhythms, and now stepped between them. He focused on the children, who had leaned toward the sound on the third night. One by one he spoke, not names, not commands. Memories. He gave Mihai the smell of wet leaves after rain. He gave Anna the memory of being held without fear. He gave another child the sensation of standing at the edge of something vast and calm. The children's breathing slowed. Their bodies remained where they were. But something else shifted. In the church, Father Ionescu felt it like a blade sliding free. He opened the book with shaking hands, turning pages by instinct alone. The fourth night is the crossing, the text read. He no longer comes to them. They come to him, without moving. The priest staggered back, bile rising in his throat. Outside, a lantern fell and shattered. The sound echoed unnaturally loud. For a moment, everyone froze. Then nothing followed. No scream, no footsteps, only the silence, steady and immense. Mihai's eyes filled with tears as a warmth spread through his chest. Not comfort, not joy, but certainty. He felt seen in a way that stripped him bare. He did not like it. He also did not resist. Anna lay back down, her hands folded over her stomach. She felt no fear at all now. The pull had settled into her bones like a promise. Near dawn, the presence withdrew, not gone, just distant. Parents woke stiff and exhausted, congratulating themselves too early. The watches ended. Lanterns were extinguished. Relief spread in whispers. No child was missing. Father Ionescu knew better. He climbed the tower as the sky lightened and scanned the village. Everything looked unchanged. That was the worst part, because silence no longer needed to enter the houses. It had already been invited inside, and on the fifth night, it would learn how to open doors without ever touching them. The fifth night began before the sun had fully set. Father Ionescu rang the church bell early, not in warning, but in desperation. Its sound rolled to Rastoica like a wound reopening. People emerged from their homes, faces hollow, eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. No one stays alone tonight, the priest announced. Children with parents, parents with neighbors. No closed rooms, no silence. The word silence made several people flinch. Inside the children, something tightened. Mihai sat on the floor between his mother and father, wrapped in a blanket. His body was warm, but inside him there was a cold patience, as if something waited calmly for the right moment to stand up. Anna was brought to the church itself, along with 5 other children. Candles surrounded them. Psalms were whispered constantly, overlapping until words lost meaning and became noise. That noise hurt. Anna pressed her hands over her ears. "It's too loud," she whispered. Her mother knelt beside her. "It's supposed to be loud, sweetheart. Loud keeps him away." Anna looked up slowly. "He's already here," she said. The candles flickered, not from wind, from attention. Across the village, doors were bolted. Windows were nailed shut. Yet everywhere, the same sensation spread, a gentle pressure behind the eyes, a whisper that did not use sound. Dracula did not walk the roofs tonight. He did not need to. He stood at the very edge of the village, where the road bent toward the forest. His form was clearer now, more defined, as if the children's listening had given him weight. His eyes were fixed on the houses, not searching, choosing. "You are tired," he spoke, not aloud, but inward, threading through thought and memory. "You have been so brave." Mihai's mother stiffened. She felt the thought brush her mind and recoiled, clutching her son. "No," she whispered fiercely. "You don't belong here." Dracula smiled, not cruelly, but with something like admiration. "Not you," the thought answered gently. "Not yet." In the church, Anna's breathing slowed. The prayers blurred into a dull hum. She felt herself standing in a place without walls, without fear. "Come closer," the presence invited. "You don't need to leave. Just listen." Her body did not move. Her soul leaned forward. At the edge of the village, a door opened. No hand touched it. No lock turned. The old mill door, and used for years, creaked inward on rusted hinges. The sound was soft, almost polite. Father Ionescu felt it in his bones. He ran. By the time he reached the mill, the door was already closed again. Inside, dust lay undisturbed, cobwebs unbroken. Nothing had entered. Nothing had left, except the space itself felt emptier. Back in the houses, parents began to notice changes they could not name. Children stared too long at corners, smiled at nothing, responded a half-second late when spoken to. Mihai stood suddenly. His father grabbed him. "Where are you going?" Mihai blinked, confused. "I'm not going anywhere." Yet his feet strained toward the door. The handle rattled once. His mother screamed. In the church, Anna rose to her knees. Her eyes reflected candlelight too brightly. "He says it's time," she murmured. Father Ionescu burst through the doors at that moment, breathless, eyes wild. "No one moves," he shouted. "Cover the children's ears. Do not let them listen." Too late. The silence fell, not absence of sound, but perfection of it. Every prayer stopped mid-word. Every candle flame froze. Dracula's presence filled the village, not inside rooms, but inside attention. "Doors are not wood," he taught gently. "They are permission." Mihai's parents held him with all their strength as he sobbed, not in fear, but in grief, as if something beautiful had been taken away before he could touch it. Anna screamed. It was the first real scream of the week. The silence shattered. Candles guttered. Sounds rushed back violently. The church filled with chaos. When the night finally loosened its grip, dawn found Rastoica standing, but altered. No child was missing, but something essential was. Father Ionescu sat on the church steps, hands shaking, staring at the rising sun. He understood now. Dracula was not stealing children. He was hollowing them. And on the sixth night, he would come to collect what they could no longer hold. The sixth night did not announce itself. No bell rang. No dog barked. No candle flickered. Rastoica woke from inside. The sky was far too dark for the hour. The stars were gone, as if someone had wiped the fabric of the world clean. The air felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe, not with fear but with absence. An absence of everything that once protected the village. The silence returned. This time absolute. Mihai opened his eyes in bed and could not hear his own heartbeat. He tried to call for his mother. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Beside him, his parents lay perfectly still, locked in a sleep too deep to be natural. He sat up. His feet touched the cold floor. And then he heard it. Mihai. The voice came from inside his mind, clear as if someone were standing beside him. It was not threatening. It was not urgent. It was intimate. You already know the way. Mihai stood. At the church, Anna woke at the same moment. Her eyes opened without fear, without surprise. She had been expecting this. The other children slept around her, trapped in heavy, unnatural dreams. Anna rose to her feet. The church doors were shut, locked with thick wooden bars. Still, she passed through them as if they were smoke. Outside, the village stood frozen. Houses, trees, streets, all locked in the moment before dawn. At the center of the square, he waited. Dracula, not as a shadow, not as a legend, but whole, tall and elegant, wrapped in a dark cloak that seemed to drink what little light remained. His red eyes did not glow, they observed. There was something ancient in them, patient, inevitable. The children began to arrive, not running, not crying, simply walking, as if following forgotten memory. Mihai reached the square first. Anna followed, then 3 more, then 5, all of them who had heard. Dracula slowly opened his arms. You listened when no one else did, he said, without moving his lips. You felt it when the world tried to pretend I no longer existed. He knelt, so he was level with them. And you paid the price. Anna stepped forward. Why us? She asked. Dracula smiled. Sadly, because you were open. He touched her chest with 2 fingers. Anna gasped. Something left her. It was invisible. Yet every child felt it. A warm, luminous thread made of laughter, dreams, imagination, childhood itself. Dracula closed his hand. Anna collapsed to her knees, breathing, alive, but hollow. Mihai screamed, this time with sound. The scream tore through the village. Houses shuddered. Windows rattled. Time itself lurched forward again. Dracula rose sharply, irritation flashing across his face. You were not supposed to resist, he said to the boy. Give her back. Mihai cried, tears streaming down his face. Give all of them back. For a brief moment, something shifted in Dracula's eyes. Not anger, recognition. There is still something in you, he murmured, something that did not fully hear me. The first hints of dawn appeared on the horizon. Dracula stepped backward. Daylight does not destroy me, he said calmly. It only delays me. The ground trembled. The silence shattered like glass. Sound, scent, wind. Everything rushed back at once. Parents burst from their homes. Cries filled the square. The children were there. All of them. But when mothers grabbed them, hugged them, searched their faces, something was terribly wrong. They did not cry. They did not smile. They asked no questions. Their eyes were empty. Dracula was gone. Only a dark imprint remained on the ground, as if the night itself had been pressed into the earth. Father Ionescu dropped his knees. He took their souls, he whispered, not their bodies. Mihai looked around. He saw Anna being shaken gently by her mother, unresponsive. He saw the others, alive, breathing, but distant, unreachable. Then he felt something ignite in his chest. Pain and fire. He closed his eyes. And for the first time, he did not hear Dracula. The sun finally rose in full. And somewhere beyond the forest, in the shadows that still survived the day, Dracula smiled, because he knew not all the children were taken, and the ones who resist grow up to hunt him. The end.